When Ren finally reached the stalls selling spiritual ink, Lin stepped directly into her path. "Cheap sludge," Lin said, lifting a stoppered bottle from the nearest display and tilting it dismissively against the light. The liquid inside was murky, flecked with sediment. "The spiritual density is laughable. I will provide you with as much of this as you desire. Real ink from the manor's private reserves." Ren's hand, already reaching toward the bottle, froze in midair. The offer was so alien that for the briefest fraction of a heartbeat, the careful architecture of her detachment trembled. Not from gratitude, from arithmetic. She had spent 10 years under the grandmother's roof without consuming a single elixir, a single drop of quality spiritual ink, not even a single pill refined beyond what a street herbalist might sell to a dying dog. The old woman's only investment had been structural, a brutal, freezing current of yin energy driven into a boy's meridians, like iron stakes hammered into soft earth. It had widened the channels far beyond their natural tolerance, yet the sensation had been fundamentally wrong. A corrosive mismatch between the architecture being built and the body forced to house it. And after the grandmother died, the boy had descended the mountain in rags, stiff with frost. He waited in line at the gate of his own family estate for 3 long hours. The guards didn't recognize him. When he gave his name, they laughed, then fell uneasy, then hurried a runner inside. He wasn't allowed beyond the outer courtyard. He knelt on the cold flagstones for an entire day, watching his breath crystallize in the winter air, while servants carried trays of honeyed pork and jasmine tea past him into the inner halls. At dusk, his mother emerged. She stood above him on the raised stone threshold. Her face bore an expression he couldn't yet decipher. Disappointment hardened around the core of something softer, something she refused to let reach the surface. She did not touch him. Instead, she placed a jade medallion on the step between them. "This will secure your enrollment at the academy," she said. "Prove yourself there." Then she turned and walked back inside. The heavy doors closed. And on that day, Ren never truly made it home. At the academy, he arrived with nothing. No coin, no elixirs, no connections, and not even the faintest hint of a cultivation glow. His poverty was impossible to miss. The torn hem of his clothes, the dirt-blackened fingernails, the complete absence of even a basic spiritual trinket. The other disciples circled him the way dogs circle a wounded animal, probing for weakness with casual, effortless cruelty. Principal Gao, who had accepted Jin's enrollment solely to curry favor with the sect leader, took one glance at the boy's empty hands and immediately decided he was looking at discarded goods. In a display of theatrical contempt, Gao flicked a thin, dog-eared manual onto the ground at Jin's feet during morning assembly. It was a tabloid-grade pamphlet, the sort peddled to desperate farmers who dreamed of seeing their sons ascend. The other students burst into laughter. Jin simply bent down and picked it up, without a trace of expression, without resources, without guidance, without a single encouraging word from anyone alive. It took him an entire year to break through the very first cultivation stage. Then Gao dragged him before his parents at the manor. His mother sat behind her desk, jade pins gleaming beneath the light. His father stood near the window, silent and still. Gao denounced the boy as a lazy parasite, a stain on the academy's reputation, a waste of spiritual resources. His mother listened. His father said nothing. Mei agreed with the assessment. She pulled Jin from the academy and sentenced him to 6 months of solitary confinement in the grandmother's abandoned mountain hut. "Reflect on your failures," she said. Alone in the frozen cabin, surrounded by his grandmother's silence, Ren understood the geometry of his position with perfect clarity. He had no technique worth practicing. He had no elixirs. He had no allies, no advocates, no future that any living person cared to imagine on his behalf. He unrolled the grandmother's hidden scroll, the Yinlu Codex, pure yin cultivation. He knew precisely what cultivating pure yin in a male body would do. The manuals were explicit. It was volatile, biologically destructive, a process akin to flooding a furnace with liquid ice. The channels would rupture or reshape. The body would break or transform. There was no middle ground. But for the first time in his life, Ren defied his parents, not through anger or spite, through calculation. If his meridians shattered and he died, the loss to the world would be insignificant. If the grandmother's decade of brutal preparation had been sufficient, then something unprecedented would emerge from the wreckage. He began to cultivate. Ren. Lynn's voice pulled her back to the present. The sounds of the market rushed back into place. Vendors calling out, cartwheels rattling, the clatter of copper coins. Lynn was staring at her with narrowed eyes, the bottle of cheap ink still dangling from her fingers. "You went somewhere," Lynn said. "I am here," Ren replied. Lynn set the bottle down with a sharp click. "I said I would provide ink. Do you accept or not?" "I accept." They returned to the manor as the afternoon light began to fade. Ren carried the bolt of gray silk under one arm. Lynn carried nothing. She had ordered everything else delivered. In the East Wing corridor, Joe was waiting. He sat on a low wooden stool outside Ren's door, his scholar's robes dusted with fine cedar shavings. His hands rested on his knees, and his eyes were red-rimmed, not from weeping but from sawdust and sleeplessness. The shelving behind him, visible through the open door, gleamed with the pale gold of freshly sanded wood. Every joint was hand-fitted. Every shelf was perfectly level. He rose the moment he saw Ren approach. "I finished the shelving," he said. His voice was hoarse. "The cedar will preserve the spiritual ink's potency for decades. I tested it with a sample from your mother's study." Ren looked past him into the room. The shelves lined the far wall in precise ascending rows, enough space for a serious cultivator's library, more space than her grandmother's entire cabin had ever contained. "Thank you," Ren said. Something complicated crossed Zhao's face. The words hit him like a physical weight, and for a moment, his composure cracked along invisible fault lines. He reached into his sleeve and drew out a small cedar box, opening it to reveal 3 bottles of deep black ink, so dense it seemed to drink in the corridor's lamplight. "Moonwell ink," he said, "from the sect's inner reserves. Your mother does not know I took it. I wanted you to have something before." He stopped, swallowed, "before anyone decided what you deserve." Ren accepted the box. The ink hummed faintly against her palms, resonating with the widened yin channels in her wrists. It was worth more than everything she had consumed in the past decade combined. "You built the shelves yourself," she said. "Yes, you did not need to." "No," Zhou agreed. His eyes glistened. "I did not need to." Ren tucked the cedar box against the gray silk and stepped past him into the room. She placed both items on the writing desk, then stood facing the shelves. Behind her, Zhou lingered in the doorway, unwilling to enter uninvited and unable to leave. "You may visit," Ren said, without turning, "when the shelves need inspection." Zhao exhaled as though he had been holding his breath for years. He bowed, not the shallow, automatic bow of a sect patriarch, but the deep, trembling bow of a father who understood he was being offered something he had never earned. He left without another word. His footsteps faded down the corridor, uneven, slightly too fast. Ren opened the first bottle of Moonwell ink. The scent rose, mineral, ancient, cold as deep water. She dipped a brush and began transcribing the next passage of the Yinlu Codex from memory, her hand steady, her breathing slower than snowfall.